Officer is an officer who is paid a commission to join the military. So you guys can check out this room after the tour if you want. This just has a bunch of officers' uniforms in it, but we're going to head on this way. So as I was saying, commissioned officers pay a commission to join the military. Non-commissioned officers were at one point regular soldiers, privates, or gunners that have risen through the ranks. What's interesting is a non-commissioned officer can only rise so high. The highest rank a non-commissioned officer can achieve is sergeant major, or the artillery equivalent of sergeant major. A non-commissioned officer is usually a 16 or 17-year-old boy who is bored out of his mind in Victorian England, who will pay a large sum of money. Of course, this ensured that only the wealthy could become commissioned officers, and pay a large sum of money and join the military as an officer. Automatically, that 16 or 17-year-old boy is a higher rank than every non-commissioned officer that is at the fort. So, even if you were a 30-year war veteran, fought in a bunch of battles, risen through the ranks through your incredible bravery and valor, you are still lower ranking than the 16-year-old ensign who has just joined. Kind of unfortunate, but that's how the Queen Victoria kept her military loyal to her, right? How do you ensure that there's no mutiny or anything like that? Well, the best way to do that is to put people that really, really like you in charge of your army. And who really, really liked the Queen? People who had a lot of money at that time, right? They were living very comfortably. And there was an awful lot of poverty, which was the main reason that people joined the military, is because they didn't have food to eat, they didn't have shelter over their heads. So, if you had a regular soldier who rose to the ranks to non-commissioned officer, you really wouldn't want him in charge of a whole bunch of troops, because he probably was not a big fan of how things were going back in England. So here we have the first officer's room. This would be an officer with the rank of ensign. That's the lowest ranking commissioned officer. So if you paid a commission to join the military, this would be the first rank you would get, the lowest rank. In order to rise in the ranks, a spot had to open up, and then you would pay a sum of money and then sell your previous commission. So buy the next one, sell your previous one, and that's how you would jump ranks. So that's the way you would move up. So what's interesting about this room is everything here is movable very, very quickly. If there was ever a war, all this furniture would be picked up and been able to take to a battlefield, set up in a tent, just as you see it right here. So these officers live lives of luxury just as they lived them in England. So we're going to head into the next room now. Yeah, well, those doors actually didn't exist, those doorways. They were put in so we could walk through during the tour without having to go outside everything. The reason they're so low is because you don't want to compromise the structural integrity of these arches, because if you do, then we don't have a fort anymore. So that's why they're so low. There's only one doorway that is actually historically accurate, and that's the farthest one between the mess room and the messmen's room. So when they brought out food to the officers, when they ate in the mess hall, they would have that doorway there. But all the other ones have been added on later. So this would be a captain's room, most likely. To give you an idea of why someone would pay money to join the military and put their life on the line for the Queen. Like I said, most of them are quite bored, and they wanted to explore the world. And there's no better way to explore the world than with the British military, because they have the most powerful navy in the world, and a pretty sizable army to boot. So, if you wanted to be safe and experience all the world's riches and whatnot, this was the best way to do it. Pay a large sum of money, join the military, and then live a life of luxury while you're doing it. It's a pretty sweet deal. So they would have things like snowshoes and hunting rifles, because that's what they would do with their spare time. And they would have a lot of spare time. They would have lots of days off. They didn't have a whole bunch of duties at the fort, because the training would be done by the non-commissioned officers. They didn't really have a whole lot that was under their command. Their main thing was commanding troops during a battle or something like that. Side note, that desk over there, have any of you heard of a man by the name of Sir John A. Macdonald? That was his desk when he was a lawyer in Kingston. claim to fame. Yeah, so all this furniture is historically accurate, though it might not have necessarily been in the fort at the time that this furniture was created. So we're going to head into the next room again. So this room right here is the commandant's room. That just means that it's the highest ranking officer at the fort, right? A commandant just means highest rank in a certain area. So this would be his room. He would be responsible for writing letters to and from the military in England. So that's what he's got on his desk right there. Have any of you ever heard of the term red tape? Tangled up in red tape, representing bureaucracy and whatnot. Well, the origins of that is actually in the British military, because when they sent letters to and from England talking about what was going on, how the troops were, their expenses, they would tie it with a red ribbon to signify who it was going to and who it was coming from, i.e. the military. So that's the origin of the phrase red tape, because it was called red tape. It's bureaucracy for you. As well, the commandant would also be responsible for the monies of the fort, and he would have a safe with him that would have all the money for paying the soldiers, paying for food, his own personal stash, things like that. And he would keep track of all that. So let's keep on heading through. And you can take a quick look at this room. This is a leisure room that the officers would spend leisure time that they had playing cards, reading books, playing chess, things like that. This is where they spend their plentiful leisure time, just for fun. So, folks. And this over here is the mess room, right? This is where the officers eat. Of course, the officers eat in a separate place from the regular soldiers, because the officers are all gentlemen and the soldiers are scum. So they eat the same way they would eat in Victorian England. They have the same rules as they would have in Victorian England as well. With what you can and cannot say, who you can and cannot speak to, i.e. you can't speak to someone of higher rank than you unless spoken to. Things like that. Those are some of the rules that they would have. Those flags in the back are called the colors of the regiment. They are, the one on the left is the Queen's colors. Every regiment has the Queen's colors. It looks the same for everyone. On the right is the regimental colors, and those have a list of all the battles ever fought by that regiment on those gold little stripes there. And yeah, so this is where officers eat. Good food too. Not like me. And this right here is just the messman's room. This is where food is prepared, not where it's cooked. It's actually cooked in the next room over. So this is just where it's prepared, where it's sauced and plated in the same fashion that they would expect from a cook back at home in England. And this would usually be a sergeant preparing food who has earned a cushy job in the military after many, many, many years of hard service. So there's reasons to behave. All right, let's come on to the next one. So this here is the officer's kitchen, and this is where the food will be cooked. Remember earlier I was telling you about those rooms built into the hill, where the carronades are, those cannons that would fire off those curved walls. So if you guys want to check those out, you can just go through that steel door. It'll take you down through a tunnel. You'll come up on the other side into some rooms with some rifle loopholes, and then the next ones over will have the carronades in them, and they're pretty cool. So you'll want to check those out for sure. Pretty interesting stuff. Are you going to go back? Okay. Okay, so this here is the barracks room. The barracks room is where soldiers would sleep, eat, spend their limited leisure time. That would all happen in here. This isn't how the soldiers' room would have looked exactly. If you're interested in seeing exactly what it would have looked like, you can go upstairs to the balcony level, and there is a museum room with a very much historically accurate to the T of exactly what the barracks room would look like. So there's things like all their equipment would be up here, their battle gear would be over here, and their tunics over there and whatnot. Things that you don't see in this room. This room is when we have groups that stay over, this is one of the places they stay in, so we can't have expensive and valuable equipment lying around. But normally there would be 11 soldiers in each room, though they have the capacity to hold 20 soldiers. The reason that they don't pack them in so tightly is because in the military, people get sick a lot. Respiratory illness is one of the biggest things, kills a lot of people. There are about 1,000 hospitalizations per 1,000 soldiers per year. So that's a large number of people getting sick, and that was a relatively low rate as well. If you went to a place, if you were stationed in some of the rainforests and the tropics, the rate of disease would be triple that even. So pretty significant. That's why I don't want to pack them in too tightly. As well, there would be a wood stove at the back for keeping warm in the winter, and these doors at night, after lights out was sounded, would all be locked. So locking them in here to prevent desertion, which causes a problem because what's across the parade square, right? The bathrooms are across the parade square. They're stuck in here. They're locked in. So the officers would have a bucket conveniently located at the front of the room, and if you had to go, you had to go, right? If you did have to go, you could anger people in the room. They might beat you up. Though I must say that, of course, the people who were newest to the regiment or the room would obviously be sleeping furthest away from the furnace and closest to the bucket, right? So these spots here were reserved for newbies. Not fun to be sleeping there, I can assure you. Very, very smelly. Part of the reason why soldiers got sick so often, right? When you have human waste just lying around when you're sleeping. So let's keep on going this way.